Annihilation is directed and written by Alex Garland and it stars Natalie Portman and Jason Leigh. This is based on the 2014 novel by the same name of Jeff Vandermeer, and I have not read the novel, as it usually happens with these things unfortunately, but I really want to now because this was definitely entertaining. And this film has just been released on Netflix in international countries. It's got a domestic release in the US, but the studios, one of the finances, whoever, saw the negative responses to the test screenings and said, well, this is too intellectual, too complicated for mainstream audiences. Let's just release it on Netflix in other countries. Which is much better than having to change and reshoot some of the movie, which did also happen, but in a lesser extent than usual. And Annihilation, it's an interesting movie. I did something that I rarely do. Dare I say I never did something like this for movies in general. I rewatched this film in the same day. I finished the first screening and I was there in the living room just going, did I like it? Or did I not? Because there was definitely some things that stuck with me, some things that I really loved, others that I didn't quite enjoy, so I felt the need to rewatch it. So I waited a couple of hours and at night after dinner I rewatched it and I liked it. So much more. This movie is one of those that deserves a second watch. I'm one that prefers, it's awful to say, but it's the only way to say it. I'm one that loves thinking man's sci-fi. You know, I'm not that big a fan anymore, at least, of something like a Star Wars or those big sci-fi movies like Valerian, The City of a Thousand Planets. Those movies that are mainly spectacle and about showing off all the nice visual effects and all the different races. I'm not that much into these kinds of movies. I prefer the sci-fi that actually has more of a philosophical, human aspect to it. I loved Arrival by Villeneuve, the two Blade Runners. That's the type of sci-fi that I love to watch. And I can say that this is the type of sci-fi that I like, even though it's not quite as emotional as it could have been, or as I probably was expecting on the first viewing, but it definitely is a rewarding watch. And the basic premise is that there is the Shimmer, which is this ever-growing alien zone on planet Earth, and there is a group of scientists that has to go inside to try and understand how this event happened. And every other group that has entered, usually military men, no one ever came out, except the husband of Natalie Portman's character, who is played by Jason Isaacs. And Oscar Isaacs, why Jason Isaacs? Sorry. And that's the basic premise. And definitely is interesting and refreshing to watch a group of females be in those sci-fi horror movies, because it's usually like the Macho Man, you think of a Predator or other films like that, Aliens even. But having an entire female cast, there is also Jason Leigh, Tessa Thompson, Gina Rodriguez, another woman who has a weird name. And yeah, it was refreshing and it was far more interesting. And the Shimmer itself, it's a fascinating place to say the least. This place where the flora and fauna are changing completely. They are merging with different species. You have peculiar flowers, you have alligators with shark teeth. It's incredible and very satisfying. I love this type of films that are just weird but not too weird. And there are also some body horror elements, because going into the Shimmer, basically even the people themselves can start having different mutations, let's say. And I'm gonna stop there, I don't want to spoil anything, but there are some nasty scenes in this film, especially regarding a bear. It's pretty darn violent and gory, and I was not expecting it, but it's not excessively so, it's just in a couple of scenes though, so you can still safely watch the movie more or less. You can see those moments coming, by the way. Especially one with a knife that I was loving. That was, ooh, that hurts, and that's disgusting, but in the best possible way. And there are also so many other good things about this film. Like I said, the visuals, the effects in the shimmer, they're mostly good. I love the cinematography in some of those moments. I love the look that just feels like some soap on water, you know, that effect where it's water that's slightly dirty and colored like a rainbow. That's the effect found in the shimmer, and that was fascinating, lovely, truly lovely. As far as the negatives go for this film, well, some of the acting on the first viewing, I wasn't all that impressed because they act in weird ways, the character, let's just say that. But rewatching it, it actually makes sense. It does feel like an intentional choice, not just poor acting, so props on that. The pacing is definitely an issue, even though on the second viewing it didn't feel as long as it did the first time around. You can't deny that it's just needlessly slow, even for a movie that's less than 2 hours long, especially in the first part. It gets a while to get going, and even then in the shimmer there are some moments where you're like, okay, this could have been cut just slightly more. So much walking without anything truly interesting happening, and that's something that I don't like. And there is also this framing device with Natalie Portman being interviewed, and you're like, okay, we didn't really need this. These scenes could have been cut all together and the movie wouldn't have changed pretty much at all. It feels like they added it with reshoots probably after everything was done, because it slows the pace of the movie down, the tension even. That was unfortunate, to say the least. And last, the sound design. There are some creatures, some moments with sound, and the soundtrack especially, that were fantastic. I was like, whoa, that's great. But there are also moments that maybe it was the sound either of the stereo or the headphones, because I watched it both on TV and on my tablet. But there were moments of jump scares, of loud banging noises that weren't as loud as they could have been, or they didn't have that big of a punch to them. The bass wasn't as strong as it could have been, and that was a shame because it keeps building the tension, and you need that loud noise that gives you a sense of fulfillment. This sense thrills down your spine. You know that feeling like when you watch most modern horror movies, even to a fault I might say, but they do it right. This one could have been slightly louder, which doesn't mean that they wanted explosions. It's just that when you have a monster doing something vicious, you might expect the sound effect to be as vicious as what the monster is doing. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it left me pretty cold on that aspect. But yeah, it's not anything that ruins the movie, thankfully. And the themes are the reason that I actually rewatched this movie. They're the reason why I didn't either call it a masterpiece, the best movie in 7 years, like some people are saying, or even one of the best movies ever made, but neither the most boring movie of the year, dumb shit like that. I did really love the themes of this film, and rewatching the movie, they were far more rewarding and fulfilling. And this is a literal into the woods journey, you know, the journey of the hero who has problems, who is reborn after it, all those things that you can read in basic screenplay stories. But yeah, it's there and it's fascinating. There is a literal, almost literal rabbit hole where the hero has to face oneself, the dark part of oneself, and those themes are fascinating. And there is also the theme of self-destruction, which is prevalent in this film because these women are all volunteers for this crazy-ass mission. And each one of them is doing it as a way to get away from their lives, get away from either their grief, their pain, their suffering, and that's some strong stuff. Even though it is a little bit expositioning once again, they say some of those themes in a couple of scenes, which is sad, unfortunately, but I can't deny that it was fascinating. And the climax of the movie is amazing because we are used to climax, and it reminded me of the climax in Blade Runner 2049. We are used to sci-fi movies, action movies, just having to amp up the tension and the action with the loud finale. And both in this film, Ex Machina, Blade Runner, the climax is very much understated, but in the best possible way. And thinking about it and rewatching it, it's far more rewarding, far more fulfilling, more satisfying than having a shootout or explosions every 2 seconds. And for these reasons, I do think that Annihilation is a darn great movie. I can definitely see this film. As I've already said, so many people are complaining about it, and those are the people that enter into the mainstream audience realm, if it makes sense. These are the people that would have hated the movie on a test screening. So I'm both sad and happy that this got a Netflix release here in Italy and in other countries, because at least I can enjoy it in the comfort of my house with people who actually want to watch these types of movies instead of going to the theater, which would have been definitely better sound-wise and visually, but the people would have hated it, the other people in the screening, sadly. But I do think that this is going to be remembered, just like Ex Machina is right now. It's going to be remembered in the future as a great sci-fi film that wasn't really understood when it came out. And I'm not saying it's the best movie ever made, last 25 years. No, it's a really great movie. It's not fantastic. Could have been better. Could have been maybe slightly faster paced, because it's slow just for the sake of it. It doesn't build tension in the slow moments. It doesn't even build atmosphere. It's just nothing. There are some shots of nothing in this film, but I definitely recommend you check it out, especially if it's available on your Netflix. I don't know in which country it's not available, but still, Annihilation, darn great movie. So guys, if you watched Annihilation, and did you also watch Ex Machina, still by Alex Garland? Tell me in the comments below. Thanks guys for watching. To like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.